So as we are facing the continuation of the special operation, which we can here in Kazakhstan call war and not get arrested, unlike in Russia, where I hear people get arrested for calling it a war. It could have changed, it could have stopped. At the time I'm filming this video, it was heard that it is forbidden to call what's happening on Ukraine a war in Russia. So as this is happening, we observe a major split in the leftist circles, and in all of these circles we see that the anti-war stance is becoming less and less accepted now. And it's very important to remember that we cannot fall for black or white thinking. If you're opposing the war, that doesn't mean you're siding with any of the forces. If you oppose the war in Ukraine, that doesn't mean that you support the fascists in Ukraine. That doesn't mean you support Putin. That means that you are against the war that is waged against the people. That's what it means. And upon a first glance, this may be seen as a very simple thing to understand. However, we are pushed by propaganda to choose a side, to pick a side. And we're told that if we oppose the war, well, we must be okay with what was happening in Ukraine. Or if we oppose the war and say, well, no, we don't support what was happening in Ukraine before, then they say, well, you must be for Putin then and his regime, and you must think that he is trying to restore the Soviet Union. No, that's not true. If you're against war, that means you don't want your comrades on the Russian side, on the Ukrainian side, to die because imperialists are dividing whatever it is they need to divide amongst themselves. We cannot support any sides in the imperialist war. Of course, it is very complicated to do so. It is very complicated to take an appropriate stance when it is about the actual people suffering and dying. And of course, it's easy for those of us who are not in Russia or in Ukraine to speculate and to spew our opinion and whatnot without having any consequences. Of course, we have to come from a standpoint of understanding and support for the victims of war, but we cannot also blindly follow the propaganda that is being spread on both sides. We have to understand that capital will always wage war against the people, because the crisis is what fuels capital. Capitalists have been doing that forever. Whenever there is a major economic crisis, war is the answer. Now, and I'm not an economist, I'm not very well versed in this, so I'm not an expert, of course, just as I shared in my previous videos about this. But please bear in mind that if someone is against war, that doesn't mean there's some stupid, idle pacifist who's just trying to be holier than thou and smarter than everyone else. But also remember that there is an informational war waged against us as well, where we're pushed to take a side so that we're further separated from each other, so that we're further away from each other, so that we cannot unite our efforts against the oligarchs, against the bourgeoisie, who are actual enemies who are waging war against us at all times.